Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. Hey there, Kate.
Hello, hello.
Hello. If you are, well, I was going to say if you're listening to this episode, spoiler alert, you're listening to this episode. What I wanted to say was this is actually us going back and re-recording the first episode, I think, of the whole podcast, digging into what is copywriting. And the reason we're re-recording it is we just have more stuff that we want to add. Also, the first
Things
time
change.
when we recorded, we were little newbies.
I didn't even say hello,
podcasting.
hello. It was a different.
Yeah, probably
vibe.
just one
Couldn't
hello.
hear
It's
it.
one
Just
hello
one
back
hello.
then.
Yeah.
Yes. But actually, I was thinking as I was saying, welcome back to another episode. Technically, this would have been welcome to the first one. And maybe it is for you. And if it is, welcome to the Build Your Copywriting Business podcast. We are so happy to have you. We're going to kick this off with what is copywriting. But as you see, there are literally hundreds of episodes, and we work really, really hard to make this podcast as useful for you as possible. So definitely dig in, learn about copywriting, and explore all of the episodes. So, Kate, what is copywriting?
I'm going to start by saying what it isn't, which is copywriting with an R, the RIGHTING, that often people, if you tell friends and family members, I'm looking into copywriting, they might think you're looking into a law degree. It is not that. What we're talking about is...
My friend Anne used to ask me if I put the little circle around the R next to a word. Like, no.
I don't know if anyone does that, though.
I don't think anyone actually does that. But she thought, she was being cute. Yeah.
So really, copywriting is marketing and advertising writing. So it's writing that sells or persuades. For example, you probably see it all the time and don't even realize it.
Not only that, I would guarantee that there is a piece of copy within your arm span right now. Copy is everywhere.
I have a puzzle within my arm span, and there's copy on the puzzle block.
There's
you're not
product
wrong.
descriptions.
Yes.
Yeah. If it's writing that's designed to get people to take an action or to change their minds about something, or to even to spread knowledge of a brand, that is copy. It's emails. It's websites, it's banner ads, it's social media ads, it's billboards, it's Subway ads,
magazine ads. Oh, yeah,
magazine
ads.
I don't know, Subway ads. It's like you were saying, puzzles. It's packaging. It's the back cover copy, as I have written some back cover copy in my past for Harlequin romance novels. That's one of my clients, or was one of my clients
too.
Taglines, exactly. It is all over the place, and once you start to be aware of it, you're going to start noticing it all over the place as well.
It's like Love Actually. Love really is all around. Copy really is all around.
All around, yeah. But I think sometimes too, people get when we say things like advertising, we say things like marketing. People get concerned that it's pushy or it's manipulative, and that's absolutely not what copy is. Put anything that is pushy, anything that's manipulative, it's fundamentally not going to work. I suppose you could try to use your powers for evil, but it doesn't work, because what copy really is about is connecting people who have a want or a need with the best solution to that want or that need. And we do that by writing words that resonate with the target audience, that make them go, oh, yeah. Oh, hey, this is what I want. Oh, this is it. And it's really about making connections more than anything else.
And it's finding the right people to put your message out in front of, because certainly, I don't have kids personally. So if I'm, being advertised preschool information about a preschool, that's not really relevant to me. But I think sometimes too, we don't know what we don't know. And so sometimes what I love sometimes is getting advertisements for things that I didn't know I needed, that I didn't know there was a solution to solve a problem that I had. Certainly there's sometimes when I need something, you go to Google or Amazon or wherever you're going to find products and services or whatever. But sometimes you don't even know.
Well, and that's part of the fun, right? Is when you work with a client or you work with a boss, and we'll talk about how you can work as a copywriter, but when you work with them and they give you the information about a project, you get the opportunity to kind of put yourself in the target audience's shoes and really figure out how to connect with them in the best possible way. You and I talk a lot about, I mean, we've been doing this. I've been doing this for more than 20 years. You've been doing this for more than 15. So we
I think the last time we
stuck with it
recorded
for a
this,
while.
those numbers were lower, which is wild.
So funny. But it's part of the reason we keep doing it is because it's so much fun. It is this really interesting mix of creativity and strategy. And I think you and I have both compared it to like a word puzzle, because you get to play with words and try to find the best possible solution.
Yeah, and certainly there's more than writing that you're doing. You're coming up with big ideas. I always love, and I think I referenced this the first time we recorded this, is that the Dos Equis most interesting man in the world was that idea came from copywriters. And so, I think a lot of people who are curious about this or thinking about getting into it and have that hesitation that, that used car salesman vibe, that is not at all what it is. And I think the beauty of copywriting is you get to decide who you work for. You do not have to work for any company that you feel like is doing icky tactics. And I think the wonderful thing is too, that I would encourage, we can give some examples of this, that people have needs that are both big and small. And you can help people with those big needs, certainly, but not to judge or discount the smaller needs that people have that you might feel like are insignificant and unimportant. But, I think you referenced this on another podcast we recorded about the fake eyelashes, which I think is such a good example of this.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. This was a couple of years ago when I'm probably really dating this, but like magnetic eyelashes were a thing. There was like, you would put magnets on and then the magnets would stay and it was not glue. And it's this, yes. Is this very silly? Absolutely. But this was all around. And I was like, try it out. And so my let's not call it a need, but my want was to find the best brand of magnetic eyelashes. And I've got a bunch of different ads. I went to websites. I took a look around. I bought a pair. I think I wore them like once, but that's okay. It was my choice. That's what I wanted to purchase. And then at the same time, you have clients and wants and needs and target audience that need to know which hospital is the best for a certain kind of surgery, that need to know what adoption agency is going to serve a particular family in the best way. So there's really this gamut of humanity, right? Of all of the wants and all of the needs. And I think that kind of comes back to the idea of like, well, who hires a copywriter? Hey there, it's Nicki. I wanted to take a very quick minute to make sure that you knew about our free on-demand copywriting training. Now, whether you are brand new to copywriting or you've been doing it for a while, but you just can't seem to hit those income goals, this training is for you. You are going to learn the 3 secrets to landing freelance copywriting work without relying on frustrating job bidding sites like Upwork or Fiverr, or without cold calling strangers. And if you've watched any of the student success stories on this channel, and if you haven't yet, check them out. This is the exact same training that they all started with. And I mean students like Kate K, who is making 6 figures working part-time and retired her husband to help her build her business. Students like Stuart, who replaced his full-time salary, which was a good one, with his freelance income and then some. Stacy, who hit 6 figures in her first 6 months as a freelance copywriter, and Ashley, who landed the in-house copywriting job of her dreams. They all started with this free training, and you can start with this free training too. So sign up right now at freecopywritingtraining.com. Any company, any organization can hire a copywriter. Not everyone will, of course, to their detriment, but every company, every organization, again, from a solopreneur up all the way to a multi-billion, multi-trillion-dollar company and every size business in between, to nonprofits, organizations. If someone has something to communicate, if they have a message to communicate, which they all do, they need help with that from for someone who is skilled at how to put that messaging together. And that's the cool thing that we get to do.
Yeah, it's not just, certainly there are ad agencies that copywriters work at, but there's so many other, if you've watched Mad Men, it's not all like that by any means. But we've referenced this stat in various places, but I Googled the latest stat that I could find, and that according to the U.S. Census Bureau, so that's just in the United States alone, 5.5 million businesses started in 2023, which is the highest year on record.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible?
Just started in
Yes,
2023. That's
yep.
amazing. And
It
that's, of
says
course, in
nearly, so just
addition.
shy, but
Yes.
what's a
But
few thousand?
and that's just in the US.
That's
And that's
just
in
in the
addition
US.
to all of the millions of companies and
Mhm.
that were already here. And of course, that's not even taking into account nonprofit. And again, that's just in the US. And you can
Mhm.
be, yes, you can be an American writing copy for American companies, but you can live anywhere in the world. You can write copy for any company in the world. Obviously, you need to speak the language that they want to write the copy in. But we have students from dozens of countries writing for clients all over the world.
Mhm.
I think that the thing that sometimes people forget is just how crucial messaging is to a company or organization. It is, and I can say this, yes, I realize I am a copywriter, but I'm also a business owner and know a lot of other business owners and have been a digital business owner for what, 12, 13, 14 years, somewhere
Mhm.
in there. Messaging is the most important element of a business. A company, or again, an organization, but I'm going to say company just to keep things, or business just to keep things easy, can have a and I don't recommend this, but they could have a mediocre or cruddy service or product. But if they have great messaging, they'll be able to sell it. Again, don't recommend it. Also, don't recommend working for them. But it's possible.
But on the
However, at
other
the
hand, they
same
could have a great
time,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, you can have a great product and service that you need that if you're not messaging it the right way and then people don't know about it or people don't know why it would benefit them.
Mhm.
And that's one of the key things about copywriting. And that's why copywriting training exists. And we can talk about that in a minute. But there's certain elements to copywriting that are essential in terms of making sure you're writing in the right way that gets your
Mhm.
message across in the most effective way possible. So,
Mhm.
we talk about features versus benefits and how is this going to benefit me? A lot of companies have the tendency to talk features. So like this big screen TV is I don't know what a big
56
60 inches. Yeah.
inches.
What does that even mean? Exactly. We
Yeah.
don't even know what that's. But you can watch the Super Bowl and it feels like you're actually there at the game. Or that's very bad copy off the top of my head. But you can see the difference between a 60-inch TV and something that makes you feel like you're part of the action or whatever.
Mhm.
And so that's one of the key elements. But also, if people don't know what it is that they're supposed to take away or what they're supposed to do with a certain piece of messaging, they're not going to do it.
Mhm.
Start to notice this yourself when you're in your email and your inbox. What emails do you click on? What do you not click on? That subject line, that piece of copy is the most important piece of copy in an email. And so if a company is not getting you to open it, then they're not getting the rest of the message across. So
Mhm.
that's just one example of how important it is. And two, the voice and the tone of the brand. What is the vibe, if you will, of the brand? What causes some people to purchase an Apple product versus an Android product? And certainly some of that might have to do with the functionality of what they're selling. But so many people buy into the essence of the brand, if you will.
Mhm.
What makes me want to identify as an Apple user versus an Android user? And what does that say about me? And you've probably seen there are memes all the time about who the type of person that has the Android
Yeah.
and the type of person that has an Apple phone. And which one do you want to be? What fits with how you present yourself? So there are all these elements that messaging and copywriting really contributes to.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah. A company could have the most amazing product or service, but if their messaging is no good, the company is going to fail. But at the same time, too, it's not just writing that
Mhm.
copywriters do. I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm going to be a copywriter. I'm going to sit and I'm going to write for 8 hours a day. And I have to say, thank goodness that's not it. There's no way I could sit down and write for 8 hours a day. That is not all that we do by any means. There is strategizing. There is working with our clients or bosses. Again, we can talk about the different ways how to be a copywriter in a moment. But there's sitting down and going through a project and strategizing with the client to get at the essence of the project and figure out exactly, first of all, is this the best way to message the customers? And is this the right project to begin with? How are we going to approach this project? What is the customer journey? All of these elements. I think one of the marks of a really good copywriter is to get their clients or their bosses to be thinking about their messaging in a way that they never have before. It is a copywriter's job to be partnering with people, not just I'm going to take your request. I'm going to write the copy. I'm going to send it
Mhm.
back to you. That is not the mark of a professional copywriter. A professional copywriter is a partner, is a strategist, in addition to just creating the copy. And then, of course, too, there's the time spent concepting and brainstorming and all of these elements. And then, of course, editing too, and walking your client through the copy and talking about it. And it's a very collaborative process, which is part of what makes it so fun. You get the benefit of, writing, but you also get by yourself usually, but you also get the benefit too of working with your clients or working with the team or whatever it is. And so you have the opportunity to work with some really interesting, dynamic people. So you kind of get both sides of that coin as a copywriter.
Yeah, there's so much that you learn from not just the topics that you're writing about. Certainly, I've learned about, like, I wrote for a client, robotic process automation. Ask me what that is. I don't actually know what I learned from it, but at the time, I found it very, very compelling and interesting. But there's so much that you can learn from the people around you. And to your point, you mentioned a word puzzle earlier, but it's also how did this the piece of copy that you're writing, whether it's an email, let's use an email as an example. Where does that email then go? How does it fit in? How did they sign up for the email in the first place? Did they get an ad that brought them somewhere that they signed in, they filled in their email on a form, and then got this email, and then they're clicking through this email and it's going. So there's so many elements of how it fits into the greater piece of what an organization is doing, and it's not just a standalone thing that you're working on. Typically, how does it fit into the whole process?
Well, and you mentioned, what was it? Robotic something?
Process automation.
Process automation. Awesome. And at other points in the podcast, I've talked about writing about residential tractors. I've also written for an aerospace company. I've also written for, what was the one I was just thinking? It was a digital data backup solution. Now, at the same time, too, I want to say that I have also written for Adidas and Reebok and Hasbro and Keurig
Companies we
and
know about.
TripAdvisor and Harlequin romance novels and Barnes and Noble and some again, multi-billion-dollar companies. But at the same time, too, I think that sometimes we think, well, I want to write for a fashion company. I want to work for a sports company. I want to work, and you absolutely can't. That's absolutely an option. But also, too, even as we name these kind of companies that we've written for, you should know that the work that we did with them was also still very fun. Because as you dig into a project, and certainly there have been one or two clients where I went, oh, actually, I'm not finding this fun. But the vast majority of clients,
which is
exactly, then I just didn't take money work. But the vast majority of projects, as you dig into it and you really get to understand the target audience and why they need this solution, why they need whatever it is that your client is selling or providing, and you get into the target audience's head and you think, oh, okay, well, we have to make sure that they understand this, but about the product or the service, but what's the best way for them to hear that, that it will resonate with them and they will understand. It's so much fun. So as much as we laugh about aerospace or digital data backup or residential tractors or what was it again?
Robotic process.
Robotic process automation.
I should say I, too, have written for companies and things that are not that out there.
Exactly. These projects, if you can believe
super
it,
fun,
end up being so much fun.
I think people think you have to be an expert in them. Obviously, we're not. We didn't. You don't own a residential tractor that I know of. I don't think you have a hobby farm that I don't know about. And I do not do anything with robotic process automation or, frankly, yet. I went to college. I work with a lot of higher ed institutions, but all of them are so different, and a lot of them don't have what I went to school for per se. And so, you do not have to be an expert in whatever the subject matter is, because with each client, you will get up to speed and become an expert. You have to be an expert in copywriting. That's what you have to be an expert in.
Yeah, and I think that's part of what makes it so fun is that each new client, you end up learning something new. One of the really terrible pieces of advice that we're constantly reeling about is this idea that you have to choose a niche. As a new copywriter, the best way to be successful is to choose a niche. The riches are in the niches. I'm happy to tell you that not only is that not true, it's also really bad advice. Here's the thing. When you are first getting started as a copywriter, you could not possibly know what niche you want to write for, and or whether it's industry niche or type of copy that you want to write, you could not possibly know. And if you choose a niche, you're like, all right, I'm going all in on healthcare, I'm going all in on software as a service, your entire website will be dedicated to that niche. And if someone from another industry comes to your website and thinks, oh, maybe I'll hire them, they're going to come to your website, see that you don't write for that industry, and assume that you don't want that work. You would be artificially cutting yourself off from opportunities. And I will tell you something. Sticking with just one niche or one type of writing is going to get real boring real fast. Real fast.
Or just dangerous, as we saw during the pandemic. I can't tell you how many people I know that were in the travel space. And guess what? Travel kind of got upended for quite, the better part of a couple of years, really, before anything started to kind of trend the other way. And so if you have everything set up to one thing, you're kind of setting yourself up for just a very dangerous situation. Follow other copywriters, certainly, and get advice out in the world. But I do want to say that so many copywriters, wildly successful copywriters, you will never know about because we don't put our name on our work. It's not like editorial writing or journalism where you sometimes have a byline. There's so many working, successful, well-paid copywriters, and you will never know their names. So certainly out in the world, we have a podcast about copywriting. Yes. And there are other people out in the world talking copywriting that you might be like, oh, this expert in copywriting. But know that just because someone's saying it doesn't mean look for their portfolios. Look for the work that they've done for actual copywriting clients.
Yes. The vast majority of professional copywriters, the ones who are working in agencies, who are working in-house at companies, the vast majority do not have a niche. And because you don't need to have one. Kate and I have never had a niche, and we have been. Now, granted, I don't just write copy anymore, but in the years when I was just writing copy, I had no problem hitting six figures and beyond. We have an episode we can link to, Kate, where you dig into your finances, your actual finances one
year. Might be a time for an update for that too, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Where you...
Yes, I laid it all out there.
Very
it's
impressive.
Highly uncomfortable. Thank you.
Yes, you did a good job. You did a great job. But what you really want to demonstrate is a depth and breadth of experience to show that you can write for a bunch of different kinds of companies in a bunch of different types of mediums and with a bunch of different types of brand voices. So when a company comes to your website and they see that you have that ability to write for so many different things, they're that much more confident that you're going to be able to write for them as well. And that is keeping yourself open to as many possibilities as possible. If later on you just say, oh, no, I really love the healthcare niche. Okay, couple years in, if that's what you really feel strongly about, you certainly can. But you also may never need to do that. You could just focus on reaching out to healthcare clients and building your network of people who work in healthcare without ever having to choose a niche. You never want to artificially limit your opportunities. That's just not a good idea in any profession, but certainly not in copywriting.
And we'll link to that. We did an episode on niches that we can link to below too, if you're interested in the notes in the description of this episode. But one more point too: the only famous copywriters, really, there are some famous copywriters.
There are a few famous copywriters. People who've been, Bob Bly has written a couple of books, and then there's some David Ogilvy, but these tend to be mostly men, and who were writing copy 50 years ago or maybe 20 to 30 years ago. So they quote unquote famous because they published a book or David Ogilvy founded an agency. Exactly. But this is fun.
There's some fun famous copywriters because I think all of us, if you like writing, which presumably we do, I had once had a college professor tell us his advance for his second book. I don't think he got one for his first book. So he was a published author. And his advance for his second book was $5,000. And he said that to our creative writing class because he was like, here's the reality. You need a job. You need an actual job to pursue this, unless you're going to write the next, great American novel.
But even that, unless the people
Reese
who are writing
picks your book. Yes.
But even still, if Reese Witherspoon picks your book up and makes a movie out of it, that's not, it's not life changing money. It doesn't mean that you're never
You
going
still
to
have
have
to
to
work.
work again. Exactly.
Yeah. But so all that's to say, so F. Scott Fitzgerald was a copywriter. So, and I feel like most of these people were doing this while they were writing their
hmm
books because they needed to
hmm
pay the
Yeah.
bills. Salman
Or
Rushdie,
at least right before. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. hmm
and there are some others too. I know.
Salman Rushdie, Joseph Heller of Catch
Oh,
22 fame.
yeah.
Yes.
Kurt Vonnegut was one, right?
Kurt Vonnegut was one.
I heard.
Absolutely. James Patterson, the very well-known writer today. Helen Gurley Brown of Sex and the Single Girl and Cosmopolitan magazine fame. And if you've read Lessons in Chemistry, which was obviously a really great
Great
book,
book.
and then
Yeah.
also made into a limited series. Bonnie Garmis was a copywriter. It's very interesting that a lot of novelists have come from that copywriting place, right? Because it's a great way to use your skill for writing. Not to belabor the niche point, but just to kind of link back to it. I think sometimes people think, well, I have to choose a niche because I have to find the thing that's going to pay me the most. Here's the great news. There are high-paying clients in literally, and we'll tell you exactly what high-paying means in just a second, but there are high-paying clients in literally every industry. There are high-paying clients that are solopreneurs, that are one-person businesses. There are high-paying clients at every level and in every kind of organization. Now, are there also low-paying clients? Are there also clients who are going to try to get everything they can for as cheaply as they can? Absolutely. But we don't work with them. And we are never dependent on them. You need to, and we'll talk about this more too, but you need to have a system for finding and landing clients. You are never going to be at the whim of a client. You need to be, as a copywriter, you need to be in control of your opportunities. But sometimes, and we have an episode too about this, about how much can you make as a copywriter, and is 6 figures possible? I will give you a spoiler alert, quick spoiler alert.
Yes.
Yes, it absolutely is. We'll include the link to the episode. But even just very quickly, if you got started with copywriting today, and obviously you can't, it's a career, right? So you need to get training in it. I can drive a car quite well, if I do say so myself, but I'm not going to be able to get a job as an Indy 500 race car driver because I'm not.
And you
I
certainly
haven't had
can't
the
get a
training.
job as like a pilot because you need you can't fly a plane.
Exactly, and I
Same
can bake a decent cupcake, but I'm
Right.
not going to get a job as a pastry chef. I need the training to do that. And it's the same thing with any career, right? And copywriting is no different. It's a very different type of writing than any other kind of writing, so you need to get trained in how to do it. But if you were to start and get trained today, it is perfectly reasonable for a brand new copywriter to be commanding rates at the, I used to start at 50, but I feel like that should probably increase. So $55, $60, $65 an hour range.
I saw a job posted just today for, granted it was in California, and cost of living on a location basis does change, but this was 75 to 85 an hour was their range that they posted. So
yeah, absolutely. So not everything is going to be done on an hourly basis. You'll want to figure out your project pricing and all that kind of stuff. But just thinking in those terms, if you want to work 40 hours a week and you're making $60, $65, $70 an hour, you're already over
way
6
over.
figures. And again, it's not all, you're not sitting and writing all day long. You're also doing all your concepting and your outlining and your strategizing, and it's a well-paid career, and it's a well-paid career because it's the one kind of writing that companies and organizations can actually directly track their outcomes to, right? A copywriter could redo a company's sales page and have a dramatic effect on that company's business. And because of that, because of these specific skills, companies and organizations, again, both, are willing to pay us very, very well for it.
Yeah, and you don't need a marketing background to get into it. I think that's something that a lot of people think about. And our students in the Comprehensive Copywriting Academy, there's over 12,000 at this point that we're recording
That's amazing.
it. So many different backgrounds: bartender, military, lawyers, social workers, teachers, nurses, you name it. There's been such a variety, and so it's learning a new skill, certainly, and a love of writing helps, but you don't need that background. And I think a lot of people confuse copywriting with blog and content writing. And those,
great point.
we have an episode, well, again, we'll link to that, but just to be clear that those are two very different things. I think in today's day and age, especially why one of the reasons we wanted to re-record this in particular was because in 2025, when we're recording this, AI is becoming such a topic of conversation. And certainly AI is impacting copywriters and content writers, but not in the way that you might think. I think a lot of people, there's this fear that, okay, copywriting is going to be, it's one of those careers that's going to go by the wayside. And if you've ever used AI, then you know firsthand that that is absolutely not true. But here's the thing about AI. There's a couple of points to take away from this. And one is that AI does not create new. It is regurgitating what already exists in the world. The other important thing, AI does not have empathy. It doesn't have human characteristics where it can be creative, that it can create those new things. And people can see right through that. There's if you Google AI versus human content, and again, content, we'll get back to that. Human produced content outperforms AI. It's just not capable of doing what we need it to do. And certainly some very low paid, on Upwork blog writers, yes, AI will probably take their jobs. But AI won't even take, I would argue, high quality content writers. It's not going to take those jobs. And it's certainly not going to take copywriters' jobs, because copy is so much more, as we talked about. The strategy is so, so important. So even if you're using AI as a tool, which copywriters are, and that's the one way that it's changing our career, it's making our brainstorming process maybe a little bit faster, easier. We have collaborator almost with AI, if you will. It can do mundane tasks. It can do admin things. It can do research. It can comb lots of websites at once. So certainly it saves us maybe some research time. But if you think of AI like a sandwich, I love the sandwich analogy, which is you need a human at the beginning putting something real good into it to get anything of use out. And then even then, sometimes you're going to use it and you're not going to get anything usable out of it. But nonetheless, say you put a really great prompt in, AI spits out whatever it spits out. You need a human at the other side too, to comb through what did AI do? Is it factually correct? Because as we know, you have a great example today. Had a living person that you Googled said they were dead.
Yeah.
So you need a human at the other end, A, verifying it that it's accurate, but B, it's not good enough. And especially when it comes to copy, I've put into ChatGPT as a brainstorm exercise, give me a headline with, and I think I specified the number of words, and it gave me more than, I've said 5, let's say, and it's like giving me 7 and 10 word lines. And I was like, well, that's not, you can't even do math.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. We're not naive. We know that AI is going to continue to get better and better and better.
Yes.
But again, back to Kate's point, AI only uses what's out there in the world. And so if content that is out there in the world is also being regurgitated, and if there is inaccurate content out there in the world, which the inaccuracy is proliferating and the bad content out there in the world is proliferating, it's going to continue to pull from that. And at a certain point, it's going to start regurgitating its own stuff, whether or not it's true. What I find so amusing is that, 2 years ago when AI first started to come out, and in the business circles, the big businesses, business owners were saying things like, whoa, no, AI is going to be a game changer. And it will be a game changer, certainly, and is. But, it's going to take over people's careers. Those same people, exact same people today are saying AI is great, but you need humans to use it. And that is absolutely true. It is a great tool, can be very useful for research, though it needs to be verified, can be great for brainstorming to help you maybe look at things from a slightly different angle, potentially, but it's not going to take a copywriter's job. Again, like Kate said, a blog writer's job, a content writer's job, perhaps. And anytime you see an article where it's like, AI took my job, if you actually dig in, they weren't copywriters, they were content writers. But it's an opportunity, and it's a tool to use, which is a good thing.
Yeah,
for
copywriters,
us.
I think the best example to think about is copywriters existed before the internet. The internet was a huge technological and just, shake up in the world. didn't take copywriters' jobs. In fact, it gave us more work to do because now we have digital and print projects, and print is still very much alive and well. So I would think of it like that. It's gonna, there's gonna be pros and there's gonna be cons, like with everything, but it's not gonna eliminate.
Absolutely. Well, and I think we've been talking around a little bit around the copywriting, but where and how you do it, right? So, copywriters can work in-house for creative dreams. A lot of big corporations have in-house teams that work within the company to do marketing and writing for the company, and then again, that's companies and organizations and all that kind of thing. There are also external agencies, companies that exist solely as agencies to produce marketing and advertising work for other companies. And then, of course, too, you can be a one-person shop. You don't necessarily have to work for a company or an agency. You can provide your services directly to a client, which means that you can work on staff for an in-house agency or an external agency. You can work freelance. You can work on your own. You can also work for, by the way, an external agency or an internal agency, an in-house team as a freelancer. Also,
you do both at once.
You could do both at once. You can work full-time if you want to. You can also, and again, full-time on staff or full-time freelance. You can work part-time if you want to.
Quite frankly, you can work a couple hours a week to as many hours in the day that you can fit it in, really.
Exactly. We have a lot of our students who start out by adding copywriting as kind of a part-time thing, a side hustle to get their feet wet and get a foundation and build a portfolio and start earning some extra money. And then some people stay with that because they like their full-time jobs, but they just want to earn a little bit more, have some more freedom, have more stability. And then we have some students who transfer into copywriting full-time. And again, whether that's on staff or whether that's freelance. But the really cool thing is you have that flexibility. And Kate and I have both worked for agencies, worked for in-house teams, worked freelance, worked full-time freelance, worked part-time freelance.
For 4 years from Germany.
Worked
remote
for 4 years
with all
from
U.S.
Germany.
clients.
Exactly. For several years, I would spend months traveling. I was in Central America. I was traveling through Europe. I was traveling and working that whole time because we had that flexibility. And you don't have to make one decision about your career either. You can say, right, yeah, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to work freelance, and then you might get a really great opportunity at a really awesome job. Or you might start out at a really great copywriting job and then say, oh, you know what? I really want to give freelancing a try. You get the ability to craft a career that looks exactly the way that you want to. And you also get to change it, which makes it a lot of fun.
And a lot more just, we said the word flexible, but based on the season of life that you're in, life changes. And it's nice to have something that can adapt with you through those changes versus a lot of careers, unfortunately, if you're a doctor, for example, or a nurse, you're stuck to that schedule no matter your season of life. You can't, have a period where you're doing less or more or deciding where you're working from. And so that's, I think, one of the really nice things.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm too old to get into copy. I'm too old to get into it. I'm too young to get into it. I'm too this, I'm too that. And one of the really cool things, actually among many very cool things about copywriting, is that it is an entirely merit-based career. A client does not care how old you are, how young you are, what gender you are, where you live, any of these things, as long as you can write great copy. And you can learn to write great copy. And you can also build a portfolio that demonstrates that you can write great copy before you even have the opportunity to write great copy for them. But if a client looks at your portfolio and they say, oh, this person knows what they're doing, they will be willing to hire you completely regardless of any other factors about you or your experience or anything along those lines. And there are very few industries that you can say that about. So I guess you guys can tell we like copywriting. I mean, there's a reason we have done it for so long. And quite frankly, too, there's a reason that we teach it. Because there's so much more need for good and skilled writers than there's even anywhere near.
I have some projects I could hand off to the people who are down.
Even anywhere near enough copywriters to do this. It always kind of makes me laugh because I'll say, Kate or I will say to our students, there's so much work out there. And then we'll have one of our students on a podcast, to talk about their story. And they'll say, there's so much work out there. Like, yeah, I know. I tried to tell you, but that's okay. You needed to see it for yourself.
Yeah, I think, we see a lot, especially with the internet these days and the algorithm. If the algorithm's good, if you've clicked on something about copywriting, then that's all you're going to see for the better part of several weeks, if not longer.
Yeah.
And so then it can feel like, oh my God, everyone's a copywriter. No, it's just the
algorithm feeding you back what you interacted with.
Yeah.
Exactly. And hey, thank you, algorithm. Maybe the algorithm brought you to us. But the thing is that, we were saying that 5.5 million companies started in alone this year. And really you need, as a full-time freelancer, you need 4, 5, maybe 6 clients per month to be making a 6-figure a year
6 is
income.
even a lot. Yeah.
6 is a lot. 6 would be a lot to balance.
Yeah.
4 or 5.
4 is
and then
right, yeah.
too, a lot of those clients are going to come
they
back to
repeat.
you month
Yeah.
after month. Exactly. So the opportunity is huge. The thing that I think is holding most people back is they don't know how to do it, because you do absolutely need to get training. It is a full career, and you need to know how to do it. You also need to get feedback to hone your skills. There are a lot of different nuances to doing this work. My personal pet peeve is when people try to teach you how to write copy without teaching you how to then find clients.
I thought you were going to say handwriting ads, which is mine.
Well, that's another
first
one.
thing.
Yes. Yeah. Learn by hand copying things down. It doesn't make any sense. But you need to know not just how to write copy, and you need to know all of the foundational elements, the tactics, the strategy, all that kind of stuff. You need to practice it and wield it, and you need to get feedback from professionals, and you need to get live feedback from professionals. And you need to have someone to ask your questions to who's been through it. You need to know what it takes to, what the project process is, how it all works. You need to know how to talk to your clients. You need to know, yes, how to find and land clients. No, not Upwork. We'll have a link to that as well. But you need a process for finding and landing, and not just any clients, high-paying clients. And you need to have systems for how to work with the clients once you've got them, and how to keep working with those clients, and how to build your business as you start to get more and more clients. It's a full career. And quite frankly, that's the reason that I built the Comprehensive Copywriting Academy originally, 13 years ago now.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. And then have continued to build onto it to make sure that we perpetually have resources, because it's a lifetime access program. So to make sure that we perpetually have new resources to meet our students' needs. We just added an AI course this past year, and I'm sure we'll be making additions and updates to that. We just updated our LinkedIn course. There's all kinds of stuff, all kinds of elements. But what I want you to know is that it's possible for you to learn it. Yeah. And that should be so exciting. It should feel so exciting, because this is not you have to go back to school and you have to spend, I just looked this up the other day, the average, if you average public and private university for a 4-year degree, it's $105,000, a little bit over $105,000. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
And there's also, you go to school, like I went to school for PR, and granted, did I learn things, but like, there's no guarantee that you're going to get work out of it. It's not like I went to school. I didn't go to school for PR, and they said, all right, here's how to I don't even think there was much help with, maybe there's a little bit of help with like
some
job
internships.
placement. Yeah, I got an internship, but
Cool.
anyway, my point is that we spend also too, you spend $105,000 and the only thing you get to keep is the books that you paid for because you paid an arm and a leg to get those books, but you don't get
you don't get course recordings.
Right? You don't get course recordings. You don't get continued access to the professors. You don't get, you know, if 3 years later you have a project and you need help with it, you're out of luck, which is part of why we made the CCA lifetime access, because you should be able to come back and ask questions. But anyway, I'm getting too far into the CCA. But my point is that this is such a huge opportunity. It's so funny. So many of our students are like, I didn't know that copywriting existed before I found you guys. And
I didn't either until I found you, Nicki. Thank you.
Until you found me. No. But did you find me or did I find you?
Oh,
who rescued
the
who?
universe?
Yes.
Give you a bumper sticker that says that with my face.
It's true though. But that's the thing, is that it's such an amazing opportunity, especially for those of us who grew up loving writing and hearing again and again, oh, you can't make any money as a writer. And the funny thing is my background, and we have another episode, I won't get into me, but I knew what copywriting was. I knew that it existed, and I still forgot about it until I kind of remembered. Again, we'll link the episode, but I grew up thinking, oh, I love writing, and thinking, no, you can't make any money as a writer. And I know that so many of us do. And it's so cool. It is so fulfilling, and it is so fun and exciting to make your living as a writer. When someone asks you what you do, to be able to say, I'm a writer, and to be able to make an excellent living at it. It is
and
so
that we're helping people.
Cool. Yes.
Again,
Thank you.
In small ways and big ones, but we're, at the end of the day, we are ultimately helping people, which is really, really cool.
Exactly. We're helping businesses, we're helping organizations. And by the way, when we help businesses and organizations, we help their customers, we help the people that those organizations interact with. It's this wonderful ripple effect, and we get to do it all through our writing. It's super cool. So a big, long answer, we know, to what is copywriting, but it's a big, exciting career, and it deserved a big, long answer. But like we said, we have lots of links to other episodes here in the show notes, things that we have referenced, but we also have, at the time of this re-recording, well over 200 episodes for you to dig in and explore, and we would encourage you to do just that. So with that, we will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye, everybody.
Like what you heard? Hit subscribe so you never miss a video. And if you're ready to take the first step toward becoming a copywriter yourself, sign up for a free video training right here.